Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Nikki and I am the Managing Director of Ingenious Personnel, which is a recruitment agency. On this platform, we talk about recruitment, we talk about typing of CVs, we talk about everything that has to do with employment. If that is a topic that you do like and enjoy, don't forget to like, subscribe on the channel so that you are notified every time when we do post our next content. So on today's topic, we are going to be talking about the 10 tips of what is and what is not important on your CV. So let's get to it. As we mentioned earlier, today we're going to talk about what does and what does not matter on your CV. What is important and what is not important. So the type of information that is important that you should have on your CV and the type of information that you should leave out of your CV. Okay, so I know when we talk about CV information or CV typing or CV formatting, we're speaking about an area where everybody has an opinion, because everybody has an opinion on how a CV should look like. Everybody has an opinion on what type of format your CV should be. So when we talk about CV formatting and CV typing, we're speaking about an area where everybody feels that they have an opinion. So unless you are speaking to a recruiter or you are talking to somebody that has worked within an HR division, then what the information that they are sharing with you would be information that is based on their own experiences, because they have the knowledge and the understanding. They know exactly what they look for when they're screening through CVs. If you are not speaking to somebody that is within that division, that person, what they are basically doing is sharing their own opinions. Okay. And what we understand about opinions, other people's opinions, is that opinions are based on preferences. So preferences are different because we are humans. What I would like does not necessarily mean that the next person will like it, because it's a preference. And the preference when it comes to CVs could also mean I would put a picture on my CV, but that doesn't mean that the next person wants to put a picture on their CV. Or I would maybe format my CV in a certain way, which is my preference, but the next person might not want to do it that way. So like I said, unless you're speaking to a recruiter or you're speaking to somebody that has worked within an HR division, what they're basically sharing with you is an opinion. Today, what I want to do is I want to tell you, based on my own experiences, what is important on your CV and what type of information do we normally look for when we are screening through CVs. Let's get to tip number 1. Tip number 1. So tip number 1, content matters over creativity. What does that mean? The content that you put on your CV matters the most. You need to make sure that your CV is as detailed as possible. What we care about is we want to see, do you have the necessary skill that is required to do the job? Therefore, if you have missed out any information, which is the content on your CV, we then assume that you do not have the information that we're looking for. And this can cause then the recruiter to take your CV and put it in the bin, because we are assuming that you do not have the necessary information that we are looking for. So content matters over creativity. Now, unless you are applying for a marketing position or a graphic designer, Then the creativity will be important because it will then give the recruiter or the hiring manager an insight on what you can do. But that still would be accompanied by other documents that you would have to provide. So again, content matters over creativity. Make sure that you have enough information. I normally say, make sure you have enough meat on your CV that outlines or that gives the recruiter an idea that you are the person that they are looking for. Your CV is the ticket to the interview, is the ticket to the job. So you need to make sure that the content that you put on your CV is 100% and you're not missing anything out. So that is tip number 1. Now let's move on to tip number 2. So tip number 2 is keep it clean. Quit worrying about your fancy fonts, your colorful flowers. I've also seen CVs where there's a picture of like a cartoon in front. Quit worrying about those things. Those things aren't important. Keep your CV clean. Keep it in the right clean format, because the dangers of you putting all these fancy things and all these fancy colors can cause a distraction to the person that's receiving and reading your CV. Also, if you have using different fonts, different colors is also a distraction to the hiring manager or the recruiter, because technically they going through CVs as quickly as they can. The environment that they're in is a fast-paced environment. They need to go through your CV very quickly, very fast, and they know exactly what they're looking for. And if they come across your CV and your CV is busy, it's easy that they would overlook some of the information that you've put on your CV and they would think that you do not have the experience. So keep the content on your CV simple. Spend less time worrying about whether you should put a red color or a blue color, or maybe go for pink. Spend less time worrying about those things and worry about the content that needs to go on your CV. So that's tip number 2. Let's move on to tip number 3. Tip number 3, on tip number 3, I want us to talk about the type of information that you should worry about and the type of information that you shouldn't worry about that is actually on the content of your CV that we just discussed. So what is necessary and what is not necessary on your CV? The necessary information on your CV is information such as your name and your surname, the sex, your sex, which is, are you male, are you female, your age. When it comes to your age, you can choose if you just want to put your date of birth, or you want to put your age, or you prefer to put your ID number. Your location is key, and contactable contact numbers. This is so important. And if you go back on probably most of the videos that I've chatted, that I've been talking about CV typing or CV writing or CV formatting, I always make emphasis on this tip where contact numbers are important and they must be contactable numbers. Time and time again, I know recruiters struggle. This is an area where we struggle a lot to get hold of a great candidate that meets the job spec 100%, but there's no contact numbers, or we just cannot reach them and there's no email address. So make sure that your contact number on your CV is a contactable number and that you answer your phone, especially if you are looking for employment. Like I said again, it's your name, surname, sex, location, age, and your contact numbers. That is key that you need to put on your CV. the unnecessary information that you can leave out on your CV, because again, you're trying to not have a 20-page CV. Unnecessary information that actually shouldn't be on your CV, because you're wasting paper and ink. It's information such as hobbies, information such as what are your likes and your dislikes, is information such as religion, because religion is a big thing. So this is something that you can maybe leave out on your CV. It's unnecessary for you to have this information on your CV. Also, this information can also be discussed in an interview should the company you are interviewing with highlight any of these information. So this is something that you can always discuss with your hiring manager or with the recruiter at a later stage. You do not necessarily need to put it on your CV. So those are the key points that you need to have on your CV, the key points that you do not need to have on your CV. That was tip number 3. Now let's move on to tip number 4. Tip number 4. So one of the biggest mistakes that you can do for yourself, or you can kill your CV, is poor grammar. Mistakes on your CV. I have seen candidates where you reading a sentence and you ask yourself, what are they trying to say? If, for instance, you are applying for any admin position or any content writing position that could also be in marketing, your grammar is extremely important on your CV. Proofread your CV. If you have a friend or somebody at home that can help you, also just proofread your CV once you have done it. Ask the next person to do that for you, because you want to make sure that the grammar on your CV is 100%. You do not want to send your CV out to the market with poor grammar. Proofread your CV. That was tip number 4. Let's move on to tip number 5. Tip number 5 is fake information. Do not lie on your CV. Do not lie on your CV. Do not lie about your salary to get a salary increase. Do not lie about you having the experience when you do not have the experience. Do not lie about the title of your CV, of your current role. So do not lie on your CV, because lying on your CV can also be a crime. Uzobanjwa. So do not lie on your CV. Be as honest and truthful as you can, because you are going to be caught out of that lie. So that is very important, and that is tip number 5. Tip number 6. So earlier we spoke about preference and opinions. Tip number 6 is photographs on your CV. Are they really important? Are they really not important? Should you have them? Should you not have them? It's a preference. This one, it's a complete preference. If you prefer to have your photo on your CV, that's your own preference. I know some people, they prefer to have them on their CV. Some people, they prefer not to have photos on themselves on a CV. This is a preference. If you choose to have a picture on your CV, make sure it is a professional picture. I've spoken about this on my other previous videos. I'll leave a link where you can go and see what type of professional pictures you can put on your CV. I have seen pictures on CVs that were not appropriate, unless you are applying to be a model or to be an actor or to be in a casting agency. Then you can have a full body picture of yourself. But if you're applying to be an administrator or for any other positions for that matter, half picture, corporate jacket, corporate shirt for the ladies, for the gentlemen, corporate jacket, tie, and a nice corporate shirt. Half with your face that is clearly showing friendly smiling. Like I said, this is an absolute preference. My opinion, if somebody should ask for my opinion, I would say do not put a picture on your CV, because this could also be biased towards you. So I would say rather leave it alone, don't even put it. But again, putting a picture on your CV is an absolute preference. And if you're going to put one, make sure it is professional. That was tip number 6. Now let's move on to tip number 7. Tip number 7. So tip number 7 is those meaningless introductions that goes like this. I am a 20-year-old female that has great communication skills with a bubbly personality. I enjoy walks at the beach. In my spare time, I like to cook and I like to bake and I like to read and write. Those are meaningless paragraphs that you can put on your CV. So if you are going to put a paragraph on your CV, make sure that it's something that makes the recruiter want to pay attention to your application. It has to be something that stands out. It has to be a wow paragraph. You need to outline certain things on your paragraph. So things like your technical abilities needs to come out of that paragraph. Now, these technical abilities must tie hand in hand with what the job spec is looking for, with what the role is looking for. So look at the job spec. What are they looking for? Bring it back to yourself. Put it in a paragraph on your first paragraph on your CV. Secondly, what goes on to these paragraphs should be your achievements. If you have achieved something in your life, maybe you were part of a team that implemented a system that saved the business money. Maybe you were the one that invented that system that saved the business money. So these are achievements. These achievements can go on your paragraph because these are things that will make somebody want to pay attention to your application. And it's right on top. So if you put a catchy paragraph, chances are they're going to read your application. They're going to want to see what else has this person done. Oh, wow, you helped save the business money. What else have you done? So they're going to want to read your CV. Stop talking about long walks at the beach. Stop talking about you have great communication skills. We all think we have great communication skills. Quit talking about you have excellent time management. You have great admin skills. We all think we have that. Think about stuff that will make you stand out. Think about stuff that will make the next person want to read your application. That is your technical abilities that will tie together with the job description, with what the hiring manager is looking for. That is things that make you stand out, that you have achieved. It could also be qualifications that is related to what the hiring manager is looking for. These are all stuff that can go on the top paragraph of your CV. Okay, it's wow factor. Think about your wow factors. And that is the information that you put right in front of your CV. And that was tip number 8. Now let's move on to tip number 9. Tip number 8 is the format of your CV. On tip number 2, we spoke about keeping it clean. So now what type of format must your CV look like? Keeping it clean and format is almost the same thing, because the format on your CV must not be fancy fonts. It must be either on Arial 12, which is the information, your outstanding information such as your achievements, such as the name of your school, such as the company name, your title. Those information you can bold, you can make them Arial, maybe Arial 14, Arial 13, entirely up to you, and you can bold that. The rest of the information on your CV should be on Arial 12. You can bullet point your duties, all your duties, you can bullet point them. And then on top, you can put the name of your company name, your title, your dates of employment, and you can highlight maybe your company name, or you can highlight your title, and you can make that a different Arial type. So that's the type of format that you can put on your CV. If you want to put reasons for leaving, then that also you can highlight it, bullet point reason for leaving. You do not necessarily need to highlight that. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I'll leave a little example to just show you how it needs to look like. That is tip number 8. Now let's move on to tip number 9. Tip number 9. I've seen this 1,000 times, and it is very frustrating for us recruiters. If you send your CV to us in a scanned version, please stay away from sending CVs to recruiters or hiring managers that are in scanned versions, because the problem with a scanned version is that it is difficult to read. And sometimes when we receive the scanned version, it's not even in the right form. So the papers would be sitting this way or that way, or even right at the bottom. And it's just frustrating for us as recruiters, because now we have to format and readjust and rechange. Do not send your CV in scanned versions. If you type your CV in a Word document, PDF the Word document and send the recruiter or the hiring manager your CV in a Word document. Stay away from scanned versions, because it's difficult for the person that's receiving your CV if your CV is in a scanned version. Another thing is that if you are sending your CV to a recruitment agency and they find you suited for the position, then they will have to then retype your CV in their format in order to submit to their client, of which sometimes these scanned versions we can't un-PDF them. Therefore, that means we will have to retype your CV all over again. So it's frustrating for a lot of hiring managers, a lot of recruiters. Make it easy for the person that's receiving your CV. Once you are done typing your CV or customizing your CV, you can send it in your Word version if you want to, or you can PDF it and send it in a PDF format, in a format that is easy to read. When you send your CV to recruiters and it's easy to read and it's easy accessible, you putting yourself right in front. And if you're sending it in a scanned version, you're just frustrating the person that's receiving it, and they're going to be like, I'm not going to even. So make it easy for the person that's reading or receiving your CV. That was tip number 9. Now let's move on to our very last tip, tip number 10. Tip number 10. Your CV should sell you. That's tip number 10. Make sure when you're putting your CV together that it's a document that sells you, because your CV is the document that sells you. It's like a marketing document. Your CV is like a marketing document basically, because it's what sells you. It's what will get you to the next step of the process, which could either be a telephonic, which could either be a face-to-face, which could be a type, a Skype interview or virtual interview. You are marketing yourself to the person that will be receiving your CV. Now, a marketing document must be accurate, must be catchy. Look at the news. Look at how they type everything in the news lately that makes us want to read the document. Make it catchy for the next person that's receiving it. Make sure you've proofread it. Make sure that you have enough content on there. Make sure you've got all your duties on there. Make sure that your qualifications are on there. Your achievements are on there. Technical abilities are on there. Your reasons for leaving, and you have contact details. That was tip number 10. Thank you so much for tuning in until the end. Enkosi kakhulu. And I will see everyone back again on our very next content. Thank you and have a lovely time and be safe.